for if you want to do destructive sampling, so you're taking a piece of something out. There's different ways and different principles that guide that, and people who are responsible for approving those kinds of requests.
Do they ever take like a piece of it out and then return it with and then the next person takes the same one and take a different piece?
Okay, so that's actually, I want to take you over, we're going to go over and look for mammals because I think it's easier to see there, but you see in some of the jars, you can tell where people have used them. Mm-hmm. So I know some of these are over in bats. So let's head over here. Okay, I don't want to do any messing around with these things because I don't want you to be standing here watching me crank something because that's really not interesting. But you can see in here there's like a thing that's wrapped in cheesecloth. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that specimen has had something dissected out of it. Mm. So like my friend Steph that was in the mammals prep lab, when she was doing the Bats of Kenya project, she was pulling bat skulls out of all of these specific specimens from a couple of different species, and then they took the skulls and they did an analysis of them using this computer program where you can sort of analyze their shape. But after you take the skull out, you still keep everything else together, and you keep it with its little specimen tag, and all of that data gets added to the record. Because just because you took the skull out, maybe you'll put it back later, maybe you'll put it somewhere else in our collections, just because you took the skull out, there's still a stomach. If someone comes along and they're interested in the stomach contents of that creature from that time, it's still available for them to use. So one of the things that I really find absolutely stunning about this room in particular is just how many person hours of work these collections represent. Because a specimen without its data is useless to us. We can't use it for science because we're not going to be able to analyze it on any axis that would be interesting. And so it's just actual people collecting, preserving, cataloging, documenting, databasing that make this available to scientists for their work.
About how many jars across the rooms are there?
Jeez, that's a new question. Lots. That's a terrible answer. Well, I wish I knew the answer to that. A lot. So we have like special types of materials that we use. Like in some of the dry collections, we have boxes, and it's archival, acid-free types of paper because you don't want to degrade your specimens. And it's the same thing here. The jars are the type that's not going to be reactive. So we have some empty jars, but I would need to ask one of the collection managers and see if I could find that out. I'm sure actually it's probably in the database. So we're going to head over and see my very favorite thing in the museum and then head up to birds. So head down this rodent-y looking aisle.
This is all alcohol, right, that they're storing?
Yep.
So highly flammable down here?
Yep. So when they built this facility, it was a huge, they had to engineer in all of these different types of life safety fail-safes. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we're both afraid of fire and water here. So our fire suppression systems and also our water suppression are are all things that have a lot of infrastructure around them and require constant caretaking. Do we have everyone? Okay.
They're looking at the monkey jar.
Oh yeah, so this just kind of gives you an idea of how the Field Museum kind of skews your sense of normal. When I was pregnant with my oldest, I was managing an intern program here, and I brought the interns down. We had interns from the Morton Arboretum and the Chicago Botanic with them, so plant people. And we're showing them around, and I see one of the monkey jars. I'm like, this looks like my last ultrasound. And all the Field Museum interns were like, huh. And all the Arboretum people were like, no. Humans are animals, you guys. It's okay. Is anyone becoming part of the permanent collections? I hope not.
Everybody's here.
Awesome. Okay. So the bulk samples are my absolute favorite thing in the entire museum. So what we have in these two sides of this hall are what's called bulk samples. So when we have scientists that maintain active fieldwork programs where they go out and they collect. And if you're collecting bats, you'll put up mist nets and they'll fly into them. But other things will fly into them too. If you're collecting, if you're looking for a particular kind of ant, you put out little pitfall traps and you'll collect your ant, but you'll also collect anything else that happens to wander across and fall in. And because we're a museum and because we don't believe in throwing anything out, what happens with these is they dump them in a jar, anything out of that trap, they dump in a jar, and they bring back to the museum. Now this doesn't look like much, does it? It looks like a bunch of, looks like a mud pie almost. Okay, but what we have in these cases are 70 years of those. Just assortments of things. What's in the jars? For the most part, we don't know yet. But what we have in each one of those jars is a snapshot of an ecosystem from somewhere in the world at a particular time in history that represents an ecosystem that may or may not still exist. And this to me is really cool. So my first job here was I was the coordinator for our internal science funding committee, and we would give out scholarships to researchers from all over the world who would visit the Field Museum for a couple of weeks to work on the bats of Kenya or to work on flowering plants. And I swear, every single cycle we offered this program, someone would want to come and go through the bulk samples for Chile in 1982. And every time they would do that, they'd come, they'd dump it out, and they'd categorize all of the different things that are in that jar. And what would happen as a result, they would find something in that jar that was previously unknown to science, right? So in these jars, we have examples of biodiversity that we don't even know about yet. We don't know what's in these jars, and that's why it's my favorite thing in this entire institution. It's the work of many people's lifetimes to document what's on planet Earth and how it all interacts with each other. And this is just like, when you're bringing a group of students in, there you go, right? There's work out there. There's work out there for anyone who wants to be a scientist. There's work in communicating it and work in just figuring out what we have and how it all works together and giving people the foundation for doing any other decision making they're doing in this world. So this is my very favorite thing in the Field Museum. Now you've seen it. It's not a looker, but it's a really good example of what we do.